Hello everyone. Today we are going to look at the one of the most iconic games, Dark Souls. Well, everyone knows Dark Souls, and either you love it or you hate it. For this reason, we will introduce or review the game very briefly. I would like to focus on the one story, but not the game story, because it is so confusing that I know almost nothing about it even after hundreds of hours of playing the game, but rather my story, because I really hated the game. And after time and with a great help from my friend, I finally love it. And there is no other game I spent so much time playing it. So this review is more for those who hate this game because I know that you just need a little help and you will love the game like everyone else. But let's start with something from the history of the game. It was 2008 when Demon Souls, the predecessor of Dark Souls, was released. Unfortunately, the game was exclusively published on PlayStation 3. The game was amazing and created the basis for the so-called Souls games. Sony was also aware of potential of this type of the game, so the next game, Dark Souls, in 2011 was released also on PC. It was immediately very popular, but it suffered from a lot of bugs as it was again primarily aimed at PlayStation. Fortunately, after several years, a remastered version with a lot of improvements in control and overall playability came out. The family of Souls games was expanded by Dark Souls 2 and 3, Sekiro, Elden Ring and many DLCs. There weren't many attempts to create similar game by other companies. We would only mention Lords of the Fallen, which is good, but not as good as the original. So, what are the reasons behind the popularity of this game? The difficulty is obvious, but also the incredible and diverse fantasy locations, level design, and many ways to play the game. So, the difficulty. The game is extremely difficult. There is no tutorial, and the first enemy you encounter is a boss. And if you are a noob, you have no choice to win. This fight can win only the best of the best, so you have to run away. Good. You find your first real weapon, and the boss fight is then much easier. That was the first short and fairly linear level, but after that, you will be in an open world, and if you choose the bad path, you are dead. But even if you choose the right path, you will die so many times that you won't be sure if the path is the right one. Why? Saving the game is through something like checkpoints, but you have to find the so-called bonfire. The path to the next bonfire is usually long and many bonfires are well hidden. So if you have never played this game, you should use location maps and tutorials on the internet, or you have to be very patient and have a lot of free time to explore every nook and cranny of the game. And that is not enough. Some bonfires are hidden behind the wall, and you have to hit the wall to get into the room. So, you guess the right path and you find your first bonfire. Hooray! But the things go wrong very quickly as the next part gets harder. After many tries and dying, you will find a fog door. When you pass, you will be dead again because the next boss is much harder. Each boss is specific and different, and you need to find the right way to fight it. But you also have to travel a long way until you reach him. So, this is the point where many players kick their computers out the window. Souls are the key to mastering this part of the game. You gain the souls by killing enemies. At the bonfire, you level up your character and there are many characteristics you can improve. Vitality to increase your health, endurance, for stamina that is essential for running but also for fighting, strength, dexterity, resistance, and many more for wizards and pyromancers. The so-called source farming is very important and of course quite boring, because the difference in difficulty is significant. After winning the fight, you will die again by dragon's fire if you don't know what to do. Fortunately, unlike the other enemies, the boss didn't respawn, so you finally find the right path, kick the ladder, and you find yourself back at the previous bonfire, but with a new open path. Before we continue our story, where the things get even worse, I would like to mention game design and locations. The game design is absolutely the best in the first third of the game at the castle. You constantly return to the previous bonfire, but each time you open a new path. As I said before, you will go a long way and finally you kick a ladder and a new path is opened. After many minutes or hours, you open a locked door and you will be back at the dead bonfire. Perfect. But in the rest of the game, the level design is much more linear and occasionally you need to find a key or some mechanism to open the door, but it is usually for a while. And locations are also absolutely amazing and incredibly diverse. We will walk through a depressive asylum, dark death and catacombs, insane Blight Town, where you climb ladders and platforms and you will hate the game for its design, or New Lando ruins full of immortal ghosts if you cannot find a way to get rid of them. But you will also visit beautiful places such as the castle, the city of Anorlando with Duke's archives, or magical places such as Crystal Caves or Darkroot Garden. Each location is unique with different enemies and bosses. This story is the only thing that I considered as a downside. The story is told in extremely implicit way. You have to find a lot of NPCs and talk to them, and if you miss someone, the mosaic of the story falls apart. And even if you play very carefully and talk to each character, you must have a lot of imagination to imagine the whole story. On the other hand, this approach may motivate you to play the game again, to find missing pieces in the story you know. But honestly, after 3 playthroughs, I know almost nothing. But back to our story. So I return to the bonfire and then I need to pass the bridge guarded by a dragon. I got burned several times before realizing I had to wait for the dragon to land on the bridge. After several hopeless attempts, I just ran past him to the next bonfire. Then I want to go to the tower guarded by a black knight. After many, really many tries, I was so mad that I wanted to give up the game, even though I knew that mini-boss is optional. But I felt so weak and hopeless. That was the point where I needed help. The friend of mine told me to show him my equipment. It was very weak and he told me to go to the bridge where there were several zombies. In addition to the zombies, there was Claymore Sword, which was much better than the one I had before. And he showed me that I was too heavy. Armors and shields are good for tanks, but not for this type of the game, where you have to be very agile and roll over and over again. Really, an almost naked character is the best, because there are several bosses that you need to kill quickly. But I will tell you about that a bit later. The conclusion is that you shouldn't give up. Just try a different playstyle and find better weapons, and if you don't know how to go through certain passages or kill any boss, let someone help you. Or you can watch tutorials on the internet or on our channel. And you really can play the game in many styles. You can try to be a tank, you can try to cover up all enemy attacks, and they may not hurt you. but you have to be very patient to play the game in this style. Fights are extremely long, so after several minutes, your attention may decrease. You can try to play it agile, and I think it is the most fun way to play, because you have to find weaknesses of your enemies and adapt your gameplay accordingly. But you can also be a wizard and avoid any physical contact with your enemies. But honestly, I haven't played the game that way, because rolling and attacking bosses with an extremely huge greatsword is much more fun for me. But I really recommend you to try a different style of playing. So, I learned how to play the game and everything was much easier. The rest of the game was, well, not easy but manageable. Sometimes I tried to go to the more advanced locations and I was punished for the audacity. Some bosses were more vicious, such as the fourth Capra demon, a ram with two long swords. The fight took place at a small courtyard, and the ram is quite agile. And there are two annoying zombies dogs that can thankfully be killed. The next boss is the complete opposite. A huge, slow, silly dragon, and the boss fight is situated in a huge area. If you killed an enemy wizard before, the fight is easy. But I should mention that in New Game Plus, which is the game you start after finishing the previous one, some bosses are much easier, but some are really much more harder. The example is the boss named Four Kings. As the name suggests, there are even 4 enemies that appear in regular intervals. If you can kill each boss quickly, the fight is relatively easy, but if you are slow, you may fight even 4 bosses at once and your chance of survival is minimal. And in the new Game Plus, the bosses have much more health, but you are not that much stronger. This fight is considered the hardest, so I really recommend you to hurry up. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to tell you. If you love the game, I haven't told you anything new. But if you hate the game or you haven't tried it yet, give it a try. The game is not unmanageable if you learn how to play it. And it is fun to play it. And it's not that all the other. So if you like the beautiful graphics, the remake will definitely satisfy you. Also, the music is epic in some parts of the game, and multiplayer is also fun, but you should try it yourself. And there is no shame in playing this game with tutorials. It's fun anyway. Try it, really. Thank you for watching the video. Next time we will look at something much more older and perhaps forgotten, Knights and Merchants. It's real-time strategy game with very interesting mechanics, cute graphics, but also terrible artificial intelligence. If you want to watch the review of your favorite game, please leave a comment below this video or on our Facebook page. And now, we are preparing a special section for your reviews, so if you want to add your review on our YouTube channel, please send it to oldschoolgamesreviews@gmail.com. And if it is good, everyone can watch it soon. So bye and see you next time.